Are you also using Google Forms to receive new registrations for your workshops and webinars? Then this video is definitely for you. So hello everyone, welcome back to Pabbly. So in this video, we are going to understand how to create GoToWebinar Registrant on Google Form submission. So I host online webinars through GoToWebinar and I receive new registrations for my webinar through Google Forms. So here my objective is that whenever I'm going to receive a new form submission, then automatically the person who has made the submission should be added as a registrant in my GoToWebinar account under that particular webinar. So here doing it manually is a very time consuming task. So now I've planned to automate this entire process using an automation software named as Pabbly Connect, in which I need to connect my Google Forms with my GoToWebinar account. So to learn this process step by step, let me take you to my screen. Welcome to my screen. So I host webinars using GoToWebinar and collect registrations through Google Forms. And here on my screen you can see the Google form which I've created for collecting registration for my new webinar, which is named as Developer Webinar. And here you can see some fields which I've entered for receiving new registration. So now it can be a hassle to manually transfer the details of each registrant. So by automating this process, I can ensure that every person who fills out my Google form is instantly added as a registrant to my GoToWebinar. This saves me time, reduces errors, and ensures that all attendees receive the necessary webinar details immediately. It makes my workflow seamless and helps me focus on delivering a great webinar experience rather than managing the registrations manually. So here to automate the entire process, I need to connect my Google Forms with my GoToWebinar using an automation software named as Pabbly Connect. So Pabbly Connect is an amazing automation and integration software, and it connects all your favorite apps and makes them work together seamlessly. You can set it up to do things automatically like updating customer info across platforms or sending notifications when something important happens. It's really easy to use and saves you tons of time that you can spend on more important stuff. Plus, it keeps everything organized and error-free so you can focus on growing your business hassle-free. So this is the homepage of Pabbly Connect, and you can visit it by simply browsing for the URL pabbly.com/connect. Here you can see two options, that are sign in and sign up free. If you're a new user, click on sign up free and get 300 tasks every month to explore the software. And if an existing user, click on sign in. Here I'm an existing user, so I'm clicking on sign in. Now after signing in, here you can see all Pabbly apps window where you can see all the applications of Pabbly. Here to integrate my applications, I'm going to use Pabbly Connect. Now this is the dashboard of Pabbly Connect, and here to build my connection, I need to create a workflow first. So for that, here I'm going to click on this Create Workflow button given on the top right corner. Now here in this Create Workflow dialog box, I have to give a name to my workflow. So here I'm going to give the name as Create GoToWebinar Registrant on Google Form Submission. And now I'm going to select my folder as Automations. You can select the folder as per your need. Also, you can create multiple folders to save your workflows accordingly. And now here to learn how to create a new folder inside Pabbly Connect, you have to click on this Learn More hyperlink given over here. And by clicking on this, it will take you to a forum window where you can see all the instructions to how to create a new folder inside Pabbly Connect. So now moving back to my Pabbly's dashboard, and here to create a new workflow, I'm going to click on this Create button given over here. Now here in this workflow window, you can see we have successfully created a workflow, and here on my screen you can see the two most important principles of an automation process, that are trigger and action. Where trigger says when this happens and action says do this. That means action is a response towards a trigger. Your automation can have a single trigger but multiple action steps. Now let's begin with our automation by simply setting up a trigger. So here I'm going to select my trigger application as Google Forms, as I am receiving new registrations through Google Forms. So Google Forms is a free tool that lets you create online surveys and forms quickly and easily. People use it to gather information like feedback or RSVPs because it's simple to set up and share. You can customize your forms with different question types, and all responses are automatically organized in a Google Sheet spreadsheet. It's perfect for collecting data, whether you're organizing an event, running a survey, or just collecting information from a group. So here in my Google Forms trigger step, I'm going to select my trigger event as new response received. received, so that whenever we're going to receive new response through our Google Forms, then automatically Pabbly Connect is going to capture the response, or you can say automatically this entire workflow is going to get triggered. And now here, after selecting my trigger event, you can see I've received a webhook URL. That means here I'm going to use this webhook URL to connect my Google Forms with Pabbly Connect. So here, following the instructions given below, firstly here I'm going to copy this webhook URL, and here I've already logged in my Google Forms account. So this is my Google Forms account, and this is the form that I've created using Google Forms. So now what I want is that I want to connect this Google Forms with a Google Sheet first, so that I can store all the data at one place. So for that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on this responses, and here under responses you can see we have received the option for link to sheets. So here I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to create a new spreadsheet for this particular form responses. And here you can see we have successfully created a new spreadsheet for this particular form responses, and with this we have successfully connected our Google Forms with our Google Sheets. So now let's go and check this connection. So for that, I'm going to make a test submission in my Google Forms. So I'm going to enter some dummy data and do a test submission. So here for the first name, I'm going to enter the name as dummy, last name as user, scrolling little down. Here for the email, I'm going to enter the email as dummy@pabblytudes.com. Here I'm going to enter random phone number. And then here for the city, I'm going to select the city as Ajmer. And then I'm going to click on this submit. And here you can see we have successfully submitted a form response. So now let's go and check our Google Sheets. And here you can see we have successfully received a response over here, where we have received the first name, last name, email, phone number, and the city. So with this, we have successfully checked the connection between our Google Forms and the Google Sheets. And now what we are going to do is that we are going to connect this particular spreadsheet with Pabbly Connect in order to receive the responses in Pabbly's workflow whenever a new form submission is made. That means whenever we are going to receive a new form submission details over here, then automatically Pabbly Connect is going to capture the response. So for that, we need to build a connection between our Google Sheets and Pabbly Connect, and for that you have to click on this extensions given over here, and from here you have to click on this add-ons, and under add-ons you have to select get add-ons. Now here in this Google Workspace Marketplace, you have to search for the add-on that is Pabbly Connect Webhooks. So I'm going to search it over here, and then you have to install this Pabbly Connect Webhooks add-ons in your Google Sheets account in order to connect your Google Sheets with Pabbly Connect. And here you can see it is already installed in my Google Sheets account. So moving back, and once you have installed this add-on, you have to follow the same steps. So now here, after installing this particular add-on, you have to refresh your Google Sheets, and that's a necessary step. So now here, after refreshing your Google Sheets, you have to click on this extensions again, and from here you will receive an option of Pabbly Connect Webhooks over here. So from here you have to click on this initial setup. And here under initial setup, you can see we have received the option for webhook URL and the trigger column. So here in this webhook URL field, I need to enter the webhook URL that I've received in my Pabbly's workflow. So I'm going to enter the webhook URL, and then here it is asking me for the trigger column. So the trigger column will be a final data column on which if the data is added, the whole of that row data will be sent to the webhook URL. So here in my trigger column, I need to enter my last data column. So here you can see my last data column is column F. So I'm going to enter my trigger column as column F, and then I'm going to click on this submit. And here you can see it says setup configured successfully. That means we have successfully set up a webhook inside our Google Sheets account. And now I'm going to click on the send test data given over here in order to check the connection between our Google Sheets and Pabbly Connect, and in order to receive the response in our Pabbly's workflow to set up the automation further. So here by clicking on the send test, we are going to receive the first row data in our Pabbly's workflow. So I'm going to click on it. And here you can see it says test data sent successfully. So now let's go and check our Pabbly's workflow. And here you can see we have successfully received response over here, where we have received the trigger column, timestamp, spreadsheet name, spreadsheet ID. Here you can see the sheet name, sheet ID, and here you can see the row index, phone number, last name, first name, email, and city. So now here, after receiving the response over here, we have to follow another very important step in our Google Sheets in order to receive the responses from our Google Sheets to Pabbly Connect whenever a new response is going to be added in this Google Sheets row. So for that, you have to click on this extensions again, and from from here you have to click on this Pabbly Connect webhooks, and then you have to turn on this send on event button given over here. So by turning it on, whenever we're going to receive new response in this Google Sheets row, then automatically Pabbly Connect is going to receive the instant response. So here we have to turn it on, and we have successfully turned it on. So now let's go and check it. And here you can see we have received a tick in front of the send on event. That means we have successfully turned it on. So moving back to my Pabbly's workflow, and with this we have successfully set up our trigger over here. So once we have received a new response through our Google Forms, I want to add the person who has submitted the form as a registrant in my GoToWebinar account. So for that, here in this action step, I'm going to select my action application as GoToWebinar. So GoToWebinar is a platform that lets people host online webinars. It's easy to use and allows businesses and individuals to hold live or recorded webinars for large audiences. People use GoToWebinar because it helps them reach many viewers, engage with their audience through interactive features, and manage their webinars smoothly. So here in my GoToWebinar action step, I'm going to select my action event as create a registrant, so that whenever we're going to receive new response through our Google Forms, I want to add that particular person who has made the submission as a registrant in my GoToWebinar account. And now here to connect my GoToWebinar with Pabbly Connect, here I'm going to click on this connect. Now here to build a new connection, I'm going to select add new connection. If your GoToWebinar account is already connected with Pabbly Connect, then you can click on select existing connection. And now here to build a new connection, it is asking me to enter the from time and the to time. So here in this from time and to time, I need to enter my webinar time on which I'm going to start the webinar and on which my webinar is going to end. So here to get these time, let me take you back to my GoToWebinar account, and here you can see the webinar which I have created, and from here you can see the start time, that is 10 a.m. and the end time, that is 11 a.m. But here you can see the times are in the IST format, and here for the Pabbly's workflow you can see we need to enter the from time and the to time in the UTC format. So here to get this UTC format time, what we are going to do is that we are going to convert the IST time in the UTC format using a converter. So for that I'm going to click on this new tab, and from here I'm going to search for the IST to UTC converter. So here I'm going to search, and from here I'm going to select a random converter. You can select the converter as per your need, and here you can see it is asking me to enter the IST time over here. So I have already shown you that I have my starting time, that is 10 a.m. So here I'm going to select my IST time as 10 a.m. And here you can see we have received the UTC time as 4:30 a.m. for the same. So now moving back to my Pabbly's workflow, and here I'm going to copy this example format date given over here, and then I'm going to paste it over here. And now I'm going to edit this date and time according to my webinar date and time. So firstly, here I'm going to enter the year as 2024, and my webinar month is November. So I'm going to enter the November month. And here for the date, I'm going to enter my webinar date, that is 30th November. Now here after T, we are going to edit the time. So here the time is 10. So here I'm going to enter my time as 4:30. So for that, I'm going to enter 04, and here I'm going to enter the time as 30. So with this, we have successfully added the from time over here, and then here it is asking me for the to time. So here I've already shown you that I have my webinar for the 1 hour. So we are going to add a 1 hour time over here in this particular from time. So I'm going to paste it over here, and here from the 4:30, I'm going to enter the time as 5:30. And now I'm going to click on the save given over here. And then here it is asking me to authorize the app. So for that, I'm going to click on this connect with GoToWebinar. And with this, authorization successful. So with this, we have successfully connected our GoToWebinar account with Pabbly Connect. So moving forward, and then here it is asking me to select the webinar. So here I need to select the webinar under which I need to create a new registrants. So here I've already shown you that I have my webinar with the name Developer Webinar. So moving back to my Pabbly's workflow, and here I'm going to select my webinar as Developer Webinar. Scrolling little down, and then here it is asking me for the first name, last name, email, and some other details as well. So here instead of entering these details manually, here I'm going to map the data. Mapping data means insert data from previous step. That means here I'm going to map the data from the response that we have received in our trigger step. Mapping makes our text dynamic, so that whenever we're going to receive new response through Google Forms, then automatically this previously existing detail will be updated with the new one. So I'm going to map the first name. This is my lead's first name. Here I'm going to map the last name. Here I'm going to map the email. Moving forward, here this address is not a required field, so here I'm going to leave it blank. Here for the city, I'm going to map the city. And then here it is asking me for the state, zip code and country. So again, these fields are not required fields, so here I'm going to leave it blank. But if you want to add any other detail, then you can do it as per your need. And here for the phone number, I'm going to map the phone number received. And now here after entering all the required details, I'm going to click on the save and send test request given over here. And here you can see we have received a successful response. That means we have successfully created a registrant in our GoToWebinar account under our webinar for the new response received through our Google Forms. So now let's go and check it. And here you can see we have successfully created a new registrant with the name dummy user, email as dummy@pabblytudes.com. So with this, we have successfully set up our automation. Now let's test our automation to check whether it is working or not. So to test our automation, what we are going to do is that we are going to make another form submission through our Google Forms. So for that, let me take you back to my Google Forms. Here I'm going to refresh it. And again here I'm going to enter some dummy data and do a test submission. So here for the first name I'm going to enter the name as test, last name as user. Scrolling little down, here I'm going to enter the email as test@pabblytudes.com. Here I'm going to enter random phone number. Here I'm going to enter the city as Bhopal, and then I'm going to click on this submit. And here you can see we have successfully made a form submission over here. So now let's go and check our GoToWebinar account. Here I'm going to refresh it. And here you can see we have successfully created a new registrant with the name test user and the email as test@pabblytudes.com. So with this, we have successfully tested our automation. Now let me summarize this whole video for you. So here we have taken our trigger as Google Forms and our action as GoToWebinar. So that whenever we're going to receive new response through our Google Forms, then automatically the person who has made the registration is going to add as a registrant in our GoToWebinar account under that particular webinar. Okay, so these were the steps to how to create GoToWebinar registrant on Google Form submission. I hope these steps were clear to you. Now if you want to use the same workflow, then you can find the clone link in the description box below. I hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. Not only these applications, you can integrate many other applications with Pabbly Connect. So now if you have any doubt, then you can email us at support@pabbly.com, and if you have any query, then you can reach out to us at forum.pabbly.com, and if you have any pricing related issue, then you can simply visit our website, that is www.pabbly.com. So now if you liked our video, then please subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends.